Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just spent quite some time talking about Dion in that article that came out from Max Olson over at The Athletic. We unpacked what has been a weird couple of days around the Colorado program. First of all, I just want to thank everyone for listening. This might just have to become a Colorado program from here on forward, but now it's time to get into some spring reactions, and let's talk about the SEC because Tom Fornelli did this over at CBS, and I thought this was a great idea. Obviously, I will not be stealing his overreactions, so I have some that might be a little bit more aggressive than the ones he put out there, to be totally honest with you. But let's jump right in, and let's talk about the team that everyone is talking about going into this year in the SEC, and Georgia. And frankly, I think this Georgia team is better than the past 3 years. And that sounds crazy. I totally get that. These past 3 years have been insane in Athens, Georgia. They have had teams that have been off the charts good. But there's one huge difference between this year and the past 3 years in my mind, and it's the offense. I think Carson Beck at the controls at quarterback is insane. Mike Bobo, having him kind of both of them being an absolute lockstep. If they ran a three-legged race, they would win by 100 meters. These guys are absolutely share a brain and just know exactly what they want to do. The run game between Trevor Etienne, Branson Robinson, Roderick Robinson is going to be insane. They have so many different ways to attack you. Trevor Etienne is one of the best receiving backs in the country. Branson Robinson and Roderick Robinson are going to run straight through you, which is always the way that Georgia fans love to see the ball be run. You have the O-line that is as stout as it's going to be in college football. There are so many guys across that line that are just incredible. Tate Ratledge coming back is absolutely huge. Jared Curtis taking over for Cedric Van Pran at center is a huge one, but the kid is an absolute athlete. He could play defensive end if he wanted to. So this kid can absolutely move. I don't think they're going to have any problem with him at center. And the wide receiver group is more deep and dynamic than I've really ever seen at UGA, to be totally honest with you. I think UGA has had better top-end receivers in the past. You've had Lad McConkey. You had, even way back when you had A.J. Green and Malcolm Mitchell and Chris Conley and some of these really, really good receivers up top. They have like 5 guys that can make big-time plays at the wide receiver position. You have Dominic Lovett that I think will end up leading the way for the most part. You have Ra Thomas that is coming along great. London Humphreys coming over from Vandy is awesome. Dylan Bell is kind of your Swiss Army knife, Debo Samuel type guy that can do literally anything you want him to do, including throw a touchdown pass, which he did a year ago. There's so many guys and so many different skill sets. And then just for fun, you have who I think might be the best athlete in the country in Anthony Evans out there at wide receiver as well. So many different skill sets, abilities, and ways to make defenses just guess for the most part. The offense is going to be good. I have very, very few questions about that. But that doesn't mean this defense is going to be bad by any means. This defense is going to be dominant. And I think the D-line was a big topic of conversation. Some people thought they would be a little bit more active than they have been in the portal, especially at that position. But Kirby Smart seems to be okay, and frankly, if Kirby Smart is okay with his defense, I have no questions. So bringing in Xavier McLeod for that defensive line was absolutely huge. I think him and Nazir Stackhouse is a very, very competent duo. And then you have edge rushers that are just remarkable. I think Michael Williams is going to have a fantastic year. I think Jalen Walker is a guy that is going to burst onto the scene and make some huge plays for them. The linebackers, honestly, are insanely good. They might be the best linebacker group in the entire country. Between C.J. Allen, Smile Munden, and Raylan Wilson, you have 3 guys that can absolutely play on pretty much any roster in the entire country. And then you have Justin Williams coming in as a freshman, very talented kid that can absolutely help them there. And then in the back end, that's kind of like a little bit of a worry area, especially at corner. But again, didn't go after kids in the portal, and I tend to lean in the way of Kirby Smart thinks they're okay. They're okay. They have plenty of guys there. Daniel Harris is going to play a big part. Ellis Robinson coming in as a freshman will probably be maybe not a starter, probably not a starter, frankly, but will be a big part of that defense. And then you have who I think is one of the best defensive players in the entire country. Some would say the best defensive player in the entire country with Malachi Starks. So this team is scary good. They're truly just insane. And just add Peyton Woodring into the conversation as one of the best kickers in the country. I think this team is as complete as that they've had over the last couple of years. It felt like there was one side of the ball that was just a little bit behind the other in the past couple of years. That's no longer the case. These guys are going to be insane, and I think they can do things that will set all types of records this year. But we'll get to that, and we'll see what happens there. But this team is just terrifyingly good. But then let's get to Bama, and this one is one that we've talked about a lot on here. That back end has been absolutely gutted. They have had so many guys that have walked out the door. 3 guys to the NFL. Jalen Key, who is actually Mr. Irrelevant this year. You had Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold, who were huge players for you at the corner positions. And then you lost all the guys in the transfer portal, and things got a lot more sketchy. Antonio Kite absolutely would have played for them at corner, along with Trey Amos, who would have been a starter, played some really good minutes in the playoff games and in the SEC championship. And then you lose someone like Caleb Downs, who I've said time and again on here, I think is the best defensive player in the country. Losing all those guys on that back end is insane. It's something that usually does not happen, especially at somewhere like Alabama. And on top of that, they face teams like UGA, LSU, Tennessee, Missouri, Oklahoma. All of these teams have either remarkable wide receivers on the outside, will have incredible passing attacks, will attack you in so many different ways. But, excuse me, I think when you look at UGA, we just talked about it, so many guys to cover. When you look at LSU, that offense is going to be okay. I promise you that. And we'll get to that in this next overreaction here. Tennessee is going to throw the ball a ton, and as long as Nico Iamaleava can be accurate, they'll be more than fine. Missouri, Luther Burden is a nightmare to match up with, and they don't really have a guy that I can feel confident that can go out there and match up with them the same way you have Terrion Arnold or Kool-Aid McKinstry a year ago. And then you have Oklahoma, who is kind of a wild card, but tons of talent at that wide receiver room. You have Nick Anderson, you have Deion Burks, you have so many guys that can make big time differences. So this is a very, very dangerous proposition for Bama. If they don't figure out that back end, I think there's realities where some of these games look like LSU games from a year ago. Now they'll be better overall defense than LSU, I can promise you that, but you will see some broken coverages, you will see some big plays, and I think it could cost them some games and make some Bama fans a little bit angry. But let's get to some of these quarterbacks, and specifically one, Garrett Nussmeier, I think is one of the most overlooked players in the entire country. Jaden Daniels just walked out the door with a Heisman Trophy. He was the best quarterback in the country a year ago, one of the best over the last couple of years. So there's a lot of big-time shoes to fill, but I think Garrett Nussmeier is more than capable of filling them. I think this kid has more arm talent than Jaden Daniels, can throw the ball from pretty much any arm angle, any stance, can do it in a number of different ways, has great pocket mobility, and just on top of all of that, the O-line is going to be incredible. I frankly think this is the best O-line in the country with LSU, and I think there are so many things that he's going to be able to do given the time. Obviously, you're losing some of those incredible receivers that you had a year ago, but it is no slouch of a group that they have around this time around. They have C.J. Daniels, who came over from Liberty. You have Kyron Lacey. You have one of the best tight ends in the country in Mason Taylor. So they should be more than fine there. And I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to absolutely light it up this year. Now, do I think they're going to go back-to-back on Heisman's? Probably not. But this kid, I think, will be a top 10 quarterback in the country and will really prove who he is and really burst onto the scene. This next one is a little bit weird, I won't lie to you. Kind of hard to explain, but I'll do my best. Florida will be a good team. They just won't win a lot. This Florida team throughout spring, it feels like they are moving in the right direction. It feels like a lot of the things that have been lacking in the last couple of years are finally there, at least in terms of culture and in terms of roster construction and roster continuity, which is a huge part of this. I just think this schedule is a nightmare. I think they could be a very good team and lose 5 games or lose 6 games. Frankly, I think they could be a top 25 team and go 7-5. I'm being totally honest. They finished the year with, I don't know if this is the exact order, but it goes UGA at Texas, you have at Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida State, all of those teams in the last 5 games of the season. That's just mean. I don't know who set up the schedules. I don't know why they have it out for Florida, but it's going to be impossible for this team to be SEC contender, to be a playoff contender, to do some of the things that I'm sure Florida fans would love for them to do, but with this schedule, it's near impossible. Like Georgia or Ohio State would not go undefeated against this schedule. So I think it's going to be a really interesting thing to watch. The question is, obviously, will they stick with Billy Napier or will he be canned after that season? Because it's a weird thing. You see good football happening on the field, but the record does not show that by any means. So it'll be an interesting conversation, but I think they're going to be a good team. I just think they're just going to go up against it in the SEC, frankly. But let's jump over to Texas and talk about that D-line, because that's a huge, huge conversation. They lost the two forces on the interior defensive line in T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, two guys that were absolutely dominant last year, made that one of the best run defenses in the entire country, and that's why they were taken where they were in the NFL draft. So you really need to find some replacements there. But that will not be the strength of this defensive line. They have guys on the edge like Ethan Burke, Barron Sorrell, Trey Moore, Colin Simmons. All of these guys can get after the quarterback, and not only get after the quarterback, but put him on the ground, which was the big problem with them last year, where you would get all of this interior pressure, and you would have a edge rusher coming off the edge, but they just wouldn't be able to get the guy on the ground, or they would get a hand on him and then he'd be able to escape out of the pocket. That is a huge problem for Texas, and I think the edge rushing is going to be a huge point of emphasis for them and really make them a force to be reckoned with. Now, you need some push from the interior defensive line, so you absolutely need guys to step up there. There's no doubt about that, but I do think the edge rushing will at least help them kind of cancel out some of the deficiencies, I suppose, they have in the interior defensive line now that could go away very quickly if they were able to add Dominic Williams from the transfer portal, but we'll get to that if they can pull that off. But I think it's just going to be a different attack from this defensive line. I don't think it's going to be necessarily any worse. I just think it's going to be more of a let's hit the quarterback, let's get him on his butt, not we're going to wear down these teams and just abuse these offensive linemen over and over until they quit type of vibe. So it'll be really interesting to watch that. And then this final one honestly might not be an overreaction. It might just be a fact. The SEC is going to have the best quarterback play in the country by far. These quarterbacks are just out of this world. You talk about the top line guys in Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe. All of those guys are proven entities. They know exactly what they're going to do. They are going to rip the ball around. They're going to play really, really good football this upcoming year. Then you have guys like Garrett Nussmeier, Nico Iamaleava, Brock Vandegrift, Connor Wegman, who really just because of injuries is not, a little bit higher on this list, frankly, and Jackson Arnold, all guys that I think are going to be the future of the quarterback position in all of college football, not just in the SEC, are going to be huge names across college football. And then you add in Brady Cook, Graham Mertz, Peyton Thorne, who are all going to give you really solid quarterback play and not make many mistakes. Brady Cook is a fantastic player. And then Taven Green and Diego Pavia. Oh my goodness. Diego Pavia coming over from the G5. I think this is a really, really fun group. I think there's so many different things that could happen here, but the quarterback play is going to be off the charts, and it's going to be different quarterback play, different styles, but man, it's going to be really fun to watch some of these matchups because pretty much every week you're going to get an absolute classic quarterback matchup. But that's what I got for you right now. We will definitely continue to revisit this, probably go around the conferences, and then maybe make our way back around because we got plenty of time between now and the first game kicking off. But we're going to take our third break here, and when we come back, we got a Hot Take Thursday for you, and we're going to talk about what these next couple of months mean and how important they are to possibly lifting that trophy at the end of the year. So stick with us, and we will be right back with that.